Okay, I'm going to go over how to do the puppet warp tool here. First thing we need to do is get our guy separated from his background and then fill in the background with the rest of this kind of gradient here. So we're going to go up to select, and subject, and then selected mask. Go ahead and decontaminate colors. Output to new layer with layer mask, right? We can do a new layer, not without a layer mask, but just applying the layer mask to the layer already, or we can go to an entirely new document. I want to go to a new layer with the layer mask already fully applied. Um, but to show you what I mean by applied, I'll first do new layer with layer mask, and I'll hit OK. So there's the new layer with the new layer mask. If I had chosen just new layer, then the way it would look as I right click here on this mask, I'll go down to apply layer mask, and there it is. It would have come out looking just like this. So here we have the guy separated from his background. We're going to go back to this, and we need to get rid of him and fill where he's at with more of this background just to create this full gradient background. So we got to get another selection of them. And if that's not visible, right, I'm on the wrong layer and go down to subject. And now we have a good selection of him. We want to expand this selection out just a little bit because we want to get more than him, because we want to make sure that as we fill with more of this background that it's not going to leave a outline of him around the selection. So we're going to get a little bit more selection than just him. So we're going to come up to select, we're going to modify the selection, and we're going to expand it, and we're going to expand it by about 10 pixels. And if you watch this guy here, you'll see it'll expand just a little bit. So now you can see we have 10 pixels of extra space around him. And then we're going to go to edit and content aware fill. So we're going to fill this selection with Photoshop's AI. It's looking around at the other parts the parts that are not selected. Photoshop's, which are this green area, Photoshop is looking at this green area and saying, okay, fill this selection with parts that are in this green area. And here you can see the preview. Here we can click on content aware and make other adjustments if we need to, but really the preview will be fine. Along with these tools, I have the plus. I can tell Photoshop, also read from this area. Consider this area as well whenever you're going to fill in with that selection, right? I can paint more green there. Photoshop will do another little selection and fill it again. Or I could say, you know what, maybe parts of him were selected by accident, or there was something else in this background like a clock that I don't want Photoshop taking into consideration as it fills this selection. And so the clock is right here. I can just paint that out, saying, don't forget about this. Don't consider that. And we're pretty good. We're going to go back to this content aware, and we're going to select OK. And it does, Command D. It did a pretty good job, but we need to make some adjustments, as you can see. So real quick, the patch tool is going to be the easiest tool here, and I'm just going to make some selections and fix this real quick. Drag out to there, a little smudgy here, drag out to there, and maybe a little here as well. So kind of like a lot of times whenever you're making selections, Photoshop will do a really, really good job. It'll take a lot of the work out of your way, but you might have to make some adjustments afterwards. So there we go. That's pretty good. And here's our guy. Now we're ready to apply the Puppet Warp tool to him, and that's another edit. And we're going to go to Puppet Warp. And Puppet Warp will apply a mesh over him, just like so. And we can control the density of this mesh. Normal's pretty good, but if your computer can handle it, go to even more points. Gives us more areas of selection. And then you see this little tack. We're going to click, and these are little joints. And think of this is where we're going to move the picture. So think of these little clicks. You're putting these in joints, so to speak. These are going to be the joints of your puppet that you will move. So I'm putting him in his knees and ankles, wrists, anywhere I want to move it. And then you hover over that and move it. As you could tell, right, it's going to stretch him out. So you have to do this carefully because you want it to be pretty seamless. So we're going to change his movement, bring this arm down a little bit, maybe up. And then this leg kind of goes up, bring this down. Maybe another joint there. There we go, to straighten that out. And I think another joint in here. And there we go. You could do more, but just to give you guys the idea of what's going on. And then we can check, hit OK. And now our before and after, before and after. Probably want to mess up around in here a little bit more. One thing I forgot to do, which is what you will want to do, turn this first into a smart object. I should have done that. And then do your edit Puppet Warp. That way, after I do a little bit of the Puppet Warp edits, I'll do one right here. Joint, joint. So say I did that okay. There's that Puppet Warp edit. I can always double click, go back into it and make adjustments. Whereas the one I had just done, there was no way for me to go back and make more adjustments other than adding a new Puppet Warp to it, which I could do, but it's always good to get into the habit of converting to a smart object. All right, that's all for this checkpoint.